Russians, over the 20 years of fighting this evil, have invented a weapon. What these reptilian and draconian and archons do is, if they're approached, they can create a small portal and pop into it, and it might take them back underground or to a nearby cave or wherever they're nesting at. And the Russians invented this weapon that when they approach these reptilians, who are pretty much dragging dead bodies off the streets or snatching, people off the streets, they have a weapon that when these portals open, the Russians will fire the weapon and it will freeze the portal, and the being is trapped right there.
Patriots, I just wanted to say thank you to all of my subscribers, as well as those who have donated to my channel. I couldn't maintain this channel without you, and your support is greatly appreciated. If you would like to make a donation, there is a Stripe link in the description. And with that said, let's go ahead and start the update. Hello Patriots, I have Commander Thor on the line, and he's here to do an interview with us and talk about several different subjects, the first of which is related to a recent news item in yesterday's video about an intelligence officer that is now revealing on the news about a UFO retrieval program. So we're going to start with that question. Commander Thor, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Mary. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you so much for giving us your time.
You're very much appreciated, and I will give you my time anytime you want it, and anytime you have questions or the pages too, I will make time. So thank you for reaching out to me.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and get started. The first question is about this news item. I was wondering if you knew anything about this UFO retrieval program, and if you could, if you could tell us a little bit about it, and if it's legitimate.
Okay, so the retrieval program has been going on for over 50 years. They're saying retrieval program of crashed UFOs. That's only partially correct. These UFOs aren't crashing. They're not flying through space, through galaxies, through portals, and come to Earth and crash. They're being shot down. And that technology was given to Eisenhower when he met with the Greys and the Tall Blondes. I believe it was in 1954. The Greys offered, it was called the Greada Treaty, and the Greys offered technology and weapons in exchange for abducting a certain amount of humans. And the Tall Blondes offered cures for all diseases, 150-year lifespans, and free energy. Eisenhower signed a treaty with the Greys. Like I said, they offered technology and weapons, and they eventually broke the treaty and started abducting millions of people due to some say it's to create a hybrid. It's actually a process in order to save their own species. They destroyed themselves. They can't reproduce. So they're abducting women and men. They're taking sperm, all of them, mixing in their DNA, impregnating the women, bringing them back to the planet. And then after 2 months, they abduct the woman again and take the hybrid out. Now the weapons that the Greys gave to Eisenhower, the shoot downs started in the 50s. One of the beings that was shot down was a single occupant ET, and the craft burned pretty good. When they finally got inside, they discovered what they called the Tomato Man. Small, spindly body, big orange head. Wow. When they went in, several scientists went in. There was a Sergeant Fowler who was a telepath. He was stationed at Wright-Patterson Army Airfield in the 50s and 60s. He was present, but when the scientists came out, the investigative team, they were bleeding out of their eyes, their ears, their nose, their mouth, and died within minutes. And then a retrieval team came in, and hazmat team took those investigators out. And lo and behold, they maybe, 20 years later, the government came up with Ebola, which was what those two investigators at that crash or at that shoot down ended up dying from. So that was turned into a weapon and bred on the African people to test, how they would use that as a bioweapon towards whoever they wanted to target. This Sergeant Fellow, the telepath, according to him, there's like a prison cell underneath Wright-Patterson, and the government, they don't know what they're getting into when they're shooting these beings down. These beings were attracted to Earth due to the nuclear bombs that were going off, and then came to investigate, and eventually were being shot down. One of these beings was in this prison cell that was shot down. So the fellow would communicate with him with telepathy, and this being, after about
I'm sorry, just to interrupt really quickly. The sound people are hearing is your phone notifications, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I just wanted to tell the audience that can't be helped. It just pops in here and there. So okay.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was that loud.
It's okay. Just keep going, because there's that's part of having a phone.
All right, well, sorry about that, Mary.
Oh, no, it's perfectly fine.
Okay, so one of these beings, jump and get off track a little bit. When scientists and NASA and whoever are searching for these Goldilocks planets, not too far from their star, water, air, and when they're looking for life, they're looking in the wrong places because not all life breathes oxygen. So some breathe oxygen, nitrogen, hydrogen. There's all kinds of things that they breathe. Mm-hmm. And a lot of these beings who get shot down and taken to these prison cells end up dying because, no one knows what they breathe. Or the government doesn't have access to what they breathe. This one being, they provided nitrogen for him to breathe. And Sergeant Fowler was having a conversation with him with telepathy, and the being told him, if you don't get me out of here, my people are going to come and it's going to be scorched earth. We're going to take this military base out and everybody in it. You have a choice to make. So long story short, Sergeant Fowler risked everything and broke this being out. And when they got on the outside of the fence line, they were being chased by the MPs, and this massive mothership appeared and beamed this being up. And the only reason that this sergeant wasn't dishonorably discharged and sent to prison was because of all the MPs that were chasing him saw the craft. And when he went in front of the commanding officer, he told him exactly what was going to happen if he didn't, get this being out. He was trying to save everyone's lives, and it's the only reason that he ended up retiring with an honorable discharge.
Okay, so when you said beaming up, and a lot of people will think Star Trek, it's not quite the same. It's
no, it's a light. It's a light that comes down and just holds the being up.
Okay, and that's the same thing with abductees. They get pulled through their room. The light that comes down, what is it? Rearrange molecules in the wall or something, and
it matches the molecules and
the frequency.
Yeah, with the wall, and they can walk right through it.
Okay, just wanted to clarify that.
Okay, so all I'm trying to get to is that these aren't crashes; these are all shoot downs.
And you said this was Project Bluebeam, a different Project Bluebeam.
No, this was called Bluebeam. And it was tested out where I'm currently based at, and that would be Dugway Army Proving Grounds, Area 52. This was in the 90s. Was some of the technology that was given to the government by the Greys, and when they tested it. 4 or 5 Arcturian ships appeared at the test site and were monitoring what was taking place and what the humans got their hands on. And then when they perfected it, that was another weapon that they were shooting the craft not out of the sky, but out of the atmosphere. And there's video out there of 3 or 4 craft approaching Earth's atmosphere, and then Project Bluebeam, they would detect these craft with the technology they got from the Greys, and they could identify whether they were good or evil. And these 3 or 4 craft, they fired this Bluebeam up from Area 52, and the craft stopped and reversed course and disappeared at light speed just as the Bluebeam went by them. So that was in the 90s. The Project Bluebeam is the fake UFOs. They have to use clouds in order to project a fake UFO. Right now they have the technology to, say, create a 50-foot tall alien monster, standing in a city.
Would people be able to feel it? Is it tactile? Or, because I heard that the planes that hit 9/11 were also kind of tactile blue beam imagery. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's the same thing. And, you just need one brave human, because if this thing appears, which it's not going to.
Yeah, I don't think so.
But if it ever did, I've gotten intelligence that was one of their plans, to create a 50-foot alien monster.
Oh boy.
Now it just takes one brave human to walk up to it, because they could walk right through it, turn around, walk back through it.
Right. Would they feel anything?
No.
Okay.
No. It's just a projection. And the news would be filming this monster, and they would be filming this one brave human, whoever it may be, that walks through it, and that would be the end of the alien invasion. So.
Okay. So this fake alien invasion is probably not going to happen.
Well, I'm gonna give it a 50-50 chance. If it does happen, then that will be a go for the military.
Yeah.
If it doesn't happen, then the next pandemic, the Marburg, that will be the go for the military.
Okay.
So I don't think it's going to happen, because too many people are putting out too much information about the UFO invasion. So.
Okay. I think you're right. I think that it's all over the place, people talking about that, and I think it's not going to be a secret.
Right.
And the Marburg virus, is that inside people that are vaccinated, like a dormant vaccine inside people, and it activates? Or how are they going to do the Marburg?
I'm not sure. I know it's in Africa already. Now with the jab, there are at a maximum of 92 different viruses in the jab, and they're all dormant, and they can all be triggered by certain things. It's just, I don't know. I believe half the 5G towers are putting out healing, and the cabal's got the other half, and it's up to them when they want to flip the switch. But there are the maximum of 92 to 96 different viruses in the boosters.
And I'm sorry to interrupt. Would they be triggered by these towers, maybe with frequency pulses or different frequencies, and would match each virus, and the virus would be activated inside people and give them symptoms? Is that how that works?
Oh, well, okay, so let me start it with this. When Trump did the warp speed, Trump had military working on vaccines, but in order to calm the country, pushed their agenda back, because they wanted to lock down the planet for around 4 years. Now, Trump's vaccine was saline. Everyone was receiving saline, and he was doing that to calm the nation, open the United States back up again. And then, of course, the rigged election and all that. So he's out, and then the cabal started doing the bad vaccines.
So when people get angry, like, for example, Stu Peters loves to talk about, why did Trump push warp speed and then get people to take the vaccine? It's because during his time, the vaccine was really just nothing. It was saline, and then he was also putting alternative therapies out there too. He wasn't mandating anything.
Right. Well, it was experimental. He had the military working on it. It was experimental. You can't mandate or force an experimental vaccine on people. So he was pushing. He did that to stop the cabal's deep state plans of locking the planet down for 4 years. So he put out saline. Now, the saline, I don't know the numbers on the amount of people that got the saline in the United States. When he was taken out of office, the boosters are what the Kazarian Mafia and Deep State were pushing hard for everyone to get. Make sure you get your boosters. The boosters are what have all the viruses and poison in them, and baby fetal cells and monkey cells, snake venom, and anything you can think of is in there. I don't know all 96 of them, but I know there's at least 92 to 96 different viruses in there.
So if anybody got their first COVID shot after Trump was out of office, when Biden stole the election and came in, then that's when the pharmaceutical companies in cahoots with the cabal started putting out the poisonous jabs. So a person technically, if they had their job mandated them to get a vaccine, and it was after Trump was gone and, under the false regime, then that first vaccine could have been the bad one. So it's hard to say, but I think if you were taking it under Trump, you probably got saline, right?
Right, and when, this is going to sound really horrible, but it's the truth, when body double Biden and Big Pharma wasn't seeing adverse events and deaths, then they kind of figured out that Trump was pushing the saline. Now, I don't know how many people got the saline, and I don't know how quick Big Pharma came out with the poison. So I'm thinking the Deep State got all the saline batches and just basically destroyed them, and then brought out their vaccines, which is the clot shots and all that.
But Trump basically saved us from a more horrific timeline.
Trump saved the United States from being locked down for about 4 years. They wanted to lock it down for about 4 years.
And that would have killed a lot of people, and the mandates would have come in, and
right, and a lot of suicides, and total dysfunction.
Right.
No economy, and it was just to basically kill as many as possible.
And bring about their new world order a lot easier. So Trump really is a hero in that situation. So when people are getting on him about warp speed, they need to actually look at the facts.
Yes, that and I just lost it for a second.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Is there anyone else starts complaining that Trump continues to push for people to get vaccines? Trump never pushed anyone to get a vaccine. Trump was promoting hydroxychloroquine, ivermectin, whatever else it was out there.
Yeah, I seem to remember that. Mm-hmm.
Sunlight, get a lot of sunlight. Light, Trump made the statement, light kills viruses. Well, he's correct. Now,
and didn't he also fix the 5G towers too? He was in the process of, the co-Fifi or something.
Well, like I said, the white hats are in control. Well, probably half of them. Now, when you have so-called truthers or whoever saying that Trump, when he's at these rallies, he's pushing, for people to get their vaccines. People have to realize that's the Trump double. That's the deep state cabal.
So when we look at Trump at some of these rallies, how can we tell the difference between the body double Trump and the real Trump? And is it the body double that's saying all the, encouraging the vaccine and saying these things that people don't want to hear because they know better?
Well, yes, like Stu Peters and others that are angry at Trump, saying he's pushing vaccines and boosters. It's not Trump, it's his body double or clone who does some of these rallies. When he's doing some of these rallies, the real Trump is locked down in Cheyenne Mountain. And the body double or clone, he'll have a button-up collar shirt on with the top button undone, and he's a little heavier, and he's got like white lines under his eyes, and he'll wear the red MAGA hat pulled down almost over his eyes. So that's the double or clone, and that's the one that's trying to get people to take the boosters. And the two reasons for that are to kill more people and to try to not let the real Trump get reelected. If there's fake Trumps out there pushing boosters.
Okay. Well, that makes that we know that the cabal has cloning centers, and they have been cloning for a while, so that makes perfect sense.
Okay, so as far as the Russians go, they've been fighting the reptilian and the draconian all over the planet for the last 20 years.
Okay, so please tell us about that.
Well, they were infested, and people were disappearing, and they didn't know what was happening to them. It's not tunnels and domes. It was reptilians underground and draconian, and they're all throughout Europe. And Russia was, pleading with other countries, this is what's going on, and they were like, we don't believe you, you're crazy. So whenever there's a war zone, the reptilian draconians will come out at night, grab the bodies. I'm sure it's happening all over in Ukraine right now.
Oh boy.
And so the Russian special forces and the Spetsnaz, they're not only fighting Ukrainians, they're also fighting the reptilian and draconian that country's infested with.
Is that why all the bodies, the POWs of the Russian POWs that they have, you've seen these, there were some images that were just horrific. Is that because of the reptilians?
No, that is the Ukrainian soldiers torturing the Russians.
All right. And they're taking children too. There's the hybrids. You said take children down to the down to the tunnels underground for the reptilians to eat.
Yeah, that would be their dinner. The Satanists do the sacrifices, the rituals, and all that. The reptilian and the draconian and other kinds need food. It doesn't necessarily always have to be children. I mean, there's women, there's men.
Right, and you've been rescuing them, you and the light beings.
Yes, and when you're in a war zone and there's dead bodies everywhere, that's a big restaurant for this evil. They just come up out from underground and start grabbing the bodies, and they have something to eat. In Geneva, they don't have anything to eat. They're on the run. We have eradicators at the entrances, and right now, that's for when the hybrids try to bring down children and women and whoever, for dinner.
Is that happening in the United States still?
There aren't any reptilian or oricons or draconians in the United States. What's going on in the United States are the hybrids and the Satanists, and their cloning centers and their domes and tunnels are. I'm pretty sure they're all blown up. And when these countries are having earthquakes, I believe it was. Well, I don't recall the depths. You would know that.
10 kilometers.
Yeah,
which is 6.2 miles.
Yeah, so that would be the white hats taking out those domes. We're not dealing with domes. We're dealing with strictly with tunnels, ancient tunnels.
Ancient tunnels, because you guys are the only ones capable of going that far down into the earth. Humans can't go down that far where those reptilian ancient tunnels are.
Yeah, we've been at depths of 50 miles, and a human couldn't take the heat and the lack of oxygen.
And you're from in Venus is an inner world civilization, so you basically came from a deep underneath the surface. In Venus, isn't that what, you're inside the planet, not on the surface? So you're more adaptable to that.
Yeah, subterranean cities.
Right.
Yeah, so we're and we have light beings that are 13D and down who are bringing in energies and eradicating evil, and these beings don't need craft. They can just show up by thought.
Okay.
And take out evil by thought. But we're just dealing strictly with tunnels. When you're having these little small earthquakes, that's domes being taken out. When you have an earthquake at 0, what did you say, 0.0?
Yeah, 0 kilometers. Last one was in New Zealand, or near New Zealand.
Yeah, so that was the light beings taking out reptilians that were trying to escape. Just taking their ships out right there on the surface.
And that's a great segue into talking about Gate 10. But before we get there, can you tell the Patriots I see a lot of questions about free will, and they don't quite understand what it means that humans needed to give up their free will so that you guys could come in and we can ask for help.
Well, you just explained it. Humans were given free will at their creation, and no one could interfere unless the masses asked for help.
And that's when the prayers were coming.
Yeah, so the prayers, all the ascended masters and God received the prayers. The light beings are ascended masters, and Jesus Christ gave the word, go. Well, we're not going to stand around and wait any longer. The masses are praying for help, so it's time to go. And I may have mentioned this to you before. A gentleman I know had a dream. He's 5D. Mm-hmm. He had a dream that Mother Mary came to him, and he sat up in his bed and he looked at her. She was holding a baseball bat. And she said, we're not waiting anymore. It's time for humans to go, wake up, push back, and pray for help.
Yes, it's time for people to get angry and fight back.
Yes, and to become aware, like, what you're doing, waking the masses, to become aware of what's going on. And people humans need to talk about what's going on. You can't keep pushing 800,000 children disappearing every year under the rug and just ignoring it. So,
yes, and let me make a great point. I was listening to McAllister TV today, and this is Linda, she said, and I think she's so right on this, that truth is ascension. That if you think you're a good Christian and that you're just going to ignore the bad things happening in the world and not help because you feel like it's going to lower you're going to be sad and that's not a good thing, you're not actually ascending. You're putting your head in the sand, and we're supposed to be warriors for God. When the children, the innocents, are being tortured like that in Eden, I mean, I don't think God wants people sitting on the sidelines. I think that's a sin, in fact. But, truth is, so when people don't want to hear the truth, like so many do, they call you a conspiracy theorist and all that stupid stuff. They're committing a sin. They're not going to ascend if they don't want to know, and they don't have an inquisitive mind to know what the real hard truth is.
Okay, so what's happened is humanity's been dumbed down. The reptilian, the draconian, oricons, and other evil are basically 3D, lower 4D, and they don't want humanity to ascend because then they won't have anything to master. Now, the people who are saying you're a conspiracy theorist and don't want to talk about anything, it's because they're MK Ultra, they're brainwashed, and it's been going on for 100 years. So they're not necessarily committing sins. They just don't know any better. Now, the ones who do know and don't do anything, I would say that they need to step up. You can't wake up the masses unless the masses wake up. So I will say maybe over a couple billion people have prayed for help. And that's all it took. And like I said, Mother Mary showed up with a bat and said it's time to go.
But it's important that people not try to ignore the truth, even if it's really scary and bad.
No, they can't ignore it. They have to accept it. That's the hard part.
Yeah, you can hear it, but not believe it.
Right, so they all need like a reverse brainwashing. But, like I've said before in some of my comments, when everything goes, and it's going to go with like a light switch, it's just going to go, and the ignorant, the brainwashed, the people who are awake, who say they're awake, everyone is going to be shocked to their core when they find out how much evil's on this planet, how it controls everything that you can think of, how your neighbor could be a reptilian hybrid and be out, at night snatching people and eating them. I mean, it's just, and then you have the Satanists. So, I mean, it's just, there's so much evil on this planet. Yeah, so right now they're focused on the food, not fast food, not takeout food, basically what you would find in the grocery stores. That is currently being cleaned. But like I said, there are priorities, and each group has their own priorities. I don't know what the Alliance priorities are, the White Hats. I don't know what the Galactic Federation and Space Force priorities are. I just know what myself and my family's priorities are and what we have to do. So, talking about humans' free will, they had to give it up and pray and ask for help and assistance and interference, pretty much.
Yeah.
And then that's why we're here. As far as the Russians, they've been going all over the planet, and Trump knows. Modi knows, Z knows. Russians, over the 20 years of fighting this evil, have invented a weapon. What these reptilian and draconian and archons do is, if they're approached, they can create a small portal and pop into it, and it might take them back underground or to a nearby cave or wherever they're nesting at. And the Russians invented this weapon that when they approach these reptilians, who are pretty much dragging dead bodies off the streets or snatching, people off the streets, they have a weapon that when these portals open, the Russians will fire the weapon and it will freeze the portal, and the being is trapped right there.
Does the being look humanoid, so it's hard to tell if they're out on a street or something? Like, no, unless you looked right at them, or?
No, they're straight up alligators and serpents and whatever you can think of that's ugly that is in a swamp.
Okay.
So, no, they're not shape-shifting to come up and drag a body off. They're coming up because they want to get a quick meal, and that meal means pulling that body behind a bush or a building and eating it right there.
And this happens in other places in the world, like some of the poorer places and disaster areas, things like that.
Like war zones.
Okay.
Anywhere there's conflict, you're gonna have dead bodies, and you have the reptilian and their families out there dragging bodies off the streets and then eating them.
I know. I heard Gene Deco talk about that, and that was at the time I didn't know if I believed it, but knowing what I know now and what you've said, that's scary.
Well, yeah, and like I said, Trump knows the Russians are fighting the Ukrainians and the reptilian and archons and the draconian.
They're real heroes, I have to say. I look up to those Russian soldiers, and when they're hurt, I pray for them, and because they really have a lot on their plate, and they have to see a lot that they don't want to see, I'm sure.
Yeah, and they're taking their fight all around the world. They specifically stated that they wanted to take out the evil on level 1 in Geneva, and that's why we haven't been there.
Oh, okay. See, I mean, the Russians are really leading a lot of this too. I mean,
the Russians are the only humans pretty much fighting the reptilian and the draconian. The Alliance of White Hats, they're going down and just rescuing children and killing Satanists and whatever demons are running around down there. But the Russians, they have been taking it to them for like 20 years now, and so with the new weapon that they have now, it just freezes the portal and the beings stuck in it, and then they just break out the lasers and slice them up.
I saw a video once that the Russians had, maybe it was accidentally put out, where it was in night vision, and it was coming from a helicopter, and they were filming the ground, and a Russian soldier was running off, and they were being chased by 5 entities. And when the entities reached the soldier, I mean, they just tore that human apart. I mean, shocking to see. So there is some animalistic, they are, they're like dinosaurs with, they're just, crazy. But, the Russians, I really have a lot of respect for what they're doing, and I pray for them. And, the news, when you hear the news and they're saying Russia blew up the dam, I mean, and everyone probably knows they didn't. It just makes me so angry, the bad rap that the Khazarians use their, propagandist media. They've been bad-mouthing the Russians for years, and it's just terrible because it's not true. These are people with children and families just like everybody else, and here they are leading this fight to save humanity, and I think they need to be recognized for that.
Oh, they will be, and they have all the receipts. They know where the bodies are buried. They have audio, digital. They have all the information they need. They've already started tribunals in Donetsk. It's all going to come out. The bioweapon labs.
And the adrenochrome labs too, correct?
All information about all the labs will come out. Russia has all the documentation. Russia does not care in one bit what the rest of the world thinks. Now, half of the rest of the world is in cahoots with Russia, joining the BRICS, buying oil from them. I mean, little secret treaties going on here and there. So Russia, Russia's economy is flying off the chart, and they have the documentation of what has been taking place in Ukraine with the Khazarians and the Satanists and the reptilian and draconian archons. All of that's going to come out. Everything's going to come out, and Russia's going to. People are going to be amazed at how wrong they got it.
Right.
And that's a lot of the U.S. politicians who are in bed with the Khazarians and the child trafficking and all that. So they're going to go down too. So I mean, everything has been planned out to the last second. No one is deviating from their plan and their priorities. And when it's time to go, that means everything has been accomplished. Now, as far as some of the minions that are running around, they'll be taken out. They're not going to cause any trouble. Right now, you have Khazarians. They're in their death throes. They're in Canada, United States, and France, I believe. And they're going to go out with a bang, and they want to take as many humans with them as possible. And they might, depending on who stole the ammonium nitrate off the train.
Yeah, that's still a question.
They can make many, many bombs with that. Now, I don't know if the White Hats grabbed it, knowing the plans, because they have Project Looking Glass. They can tell, look at different timelines, see what the cabal is going to do, what they think they might do. I mean, they have ways of knowing what's coming next, and that's why. That's one of the reasons that the cabal, the deep state, the Satanists are getting eliminated. Only myself and my families know what the reptilian and the other alligators or what their plans are. As far as Geneva, the ones I call the red jello mold or goo.
Jello monsters.
Yeah, from the bowels of hell. We took out about 1,000 of them last week. And it was just too many to vaporize.
Ugh.
So we swung the hammer and we hit them into what we call a prison realm. They get hit into this realm and there's no escape, and they just eventually deteriorate and dissolve and disappear, never to return. Now the creator of these reptilian and draconians, that creator has been destroyed. Light beings took that creator out last year. So no more of the reptilian and draconians are going to be created. Now they're everywhere in the universe, and they just go from planet to planet and destroy, unless they come up against a foe who has better weapons. Then they just back up and go to another planet. But as far as them being created anymore, that's not going to happen.
And can you tell what's the difference between the like Satan and the archons and the, you know what I mean, the fallen angels. And they're the ones that created the reptilians and used the reptilians, or do you know the story behind that?
No. Well, that's a long story, and it starts with God. So,
do you want to save that for another interview?
Yeah, that's just a long story. Now
Okay.
the fallen angels. That was Satan and another 199 angels who were called the Watchers, and they were sent down to watch humanity and sometimes guide. And then, they decided that the human women were extremely beautiful and started to commingle with them and produce children. The children were giants, and they were called the Nephilim. And then God banished Satan and the other 199 from heaven, banished them to hell, and then brought on the Great Flood. One of the Great Floods, because there's been many, brought on one of the Great Floods to take the giants out.
Okay.
So, like I said, this story starts with God, and it's a long one.
Okay, that's good. I mean, that's a good place to start, and we'll finish that on another interview. But when you hear about the Satanists and they're doing their witchery and their black magic and their satanic stuff, how does that relate to the reptilians?
It really doesn't.
Do they just do their black magic and they do their sacrificing and stuff? It's because of their they're not religion, but that's just because they're descendants of Satan. They're Canaanites.
Yeah, they have their own god, which is Satan, Baal, Moloch, or many names, and they do their rituals and their sacrifices to their god.
And the hybrids, and so the military-industrial complex somehow got with the reptilians back in probably Nazi Germany. Nazis did it and made deals. So the reptilians are just in there as well, and they made the hybrids that were coming up to bring children down, and so that's kind of
Well, Germany, the reptilian were assisting Germany to create UFOs to help take over the world.
Okay, and so they use the black magic along with that, basically the technology and.
Well, the reptilians, no, they don't use black magic. That's all Satanists. The reptilians have their own technology. Now, there's a different species of reptilian that have been on the planet that used to live on the surface with humans until they started to get out of hand and get unruly, and then the humans drove them, killed a lot, but drove them underground. Now, they're a separate species from the reptilians who showed up 490,000 years ago because they detected gold on this planet, and the only way they found this planet was by taking over planet Eden at the time, because that planet was just full of scientists.
Okay.
And that's how they found a portal from Eden to Earth. And then they detected the gold. Now, Eden is where a majority of the dead children go.
Mm-hmm.
You have a proper burial. That's no longer under reptilian. It was never under reptilian control. They just pretty much walked in with their arms and weaponry, and they were facing scientists who were never at a war, only helped create life, animals, and nature on Earth. So, and that leads me right into, I hear a lot of people talking about, well, Val, you can't fly in and out, and other beings can't fly in and out, well, because there's a firmament. Well, that firmament was destroyed by the Anunnaki over 400,000 years ago, which was considered a 50-mile wide, maybe 100 miles depth. Some people say it was an ice wall. From what I know, it was a big black cloud that surrounded the planet, and nothing could get in and nothing could get out. But with the technology the Anunnaki had, they destroyed it, and that caused a massive planet-wide flood. So that's another flood.
So up there now is just a bubble that was put in to quarantine to keep the Earth from the reptilians escaping.
Right, there's a bubble around the planet, and it only has one gate, and that's gate 10. And that's where Space Force is on the inside, and light beings with their ships on the outside. And Space Force and some light beings will spread the word, on the planet that, the reptilians and the Draconians who have ships, not all of them have ships, and they're the ones that I'm chasing on the ground. But the ones with ships, deals can be made at gate 10. This deal, that deal, as long as you never come back, and that word gets spread around to the other reptilian Draconians who have ships. And they arrive at gate 10, and if they don't get blasted, a lot of them are getting blasted on the surface. As soon as they pop up from underwater or underground, and there's a light being ship there, they get blasted, and that would give you your surface earthquakes. But the ones that are slipping by and going to gate 10, they're saying they're creating deals with Space Force and light beings, and everything is good, and yeah, you can leave, go ahead. And they go through the gate, and then the light beings on the other side, Arcturians, are taking them out like shooting ducks in a pond. They come through the gate. They come through the gate, and they just get, incinerated, just vaporized. They're just gone. Now the ones that are on the planet that have ships, they are finding about the deals. So it's a two-pronged operation. We're taking them out on the ground, and the ones with ships think they can make deals, and humans are stupid, and yeah, we can make a deal with a 3D human. We don't have a problem with that.
Yeah.
And they don't realize that some of my family are on the other side of that gate. So, they just let them out, and then they get incinerated. They're just vaporized. They're just gone. And it's, like I said, it's a great two-pronged operation. We're taking care of the ones that don't have ships, that have been here the longest, and then these reptilian and draconian archons were created by the draconians. The Greys were created by the reptilian. Reptilian run the Greys. The reptilian, the Greys are pretty much slaves to the reptilian. They do all the field work and anything.
You're talking about the small Greys, not the ones at Dulce, right?
Yeah, I'm talking about the 3-foot Greys from Zeta Reticuli. Now the 7-foot ones that are brown look just like the short Greys, only it's kind of confusing. They're called Greys, but they're brown and they're vicious. They abduct people, do experiments on them, mainly the humans that get abducted by them don't get returned.
Oh boy.
Some of them get put into what you would call. Some will be put into stasis into some of these 7-foot reptilians, what humans call a zoo. So they will do their experiments on these humans, and then put them behind the glass, standing up in stasis. They're awake, they're conscious, they just can't move.
That's horrible. When are they going to be rescued? When is someone going to go into Dulce, and just wipe all those creepy monsters out?
Everyone's got priorities. I don't know what that priority is or who's in control of that.
Yeah, because it's still operating, right?
Yeah, and it's operating with humans, so...
Are they still making deals with these things? That's what I'm wondering. The cabal.
The cabal has got nothing to do with the Grace and Dulce.
The military-industrial complex, then?
Yeah, and some black ops. And, you don't want to cross these 7-foot Grays because they just wave their hand and they have a lightning beam come out of them and just cut you in half.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so there's not a lot of humans there that are going to start running around and trying to report what's going on because these 7-foot Grays, they have telepathy, and you go running around, running your mouth, and then the next day you come back to work there, and you're all nervous. Well, they can read that. And then you end up in one of the boiling vats of whatever they put the humans in down there, and then they just stick their straw in there and suck the nutrients out.
Wow. They sound like the demons. Now, I heard that, sometimes people get abducted, and when they say the name Jesus, or they pray to the Lord Jesus Christ, they get rescued. Or I've also heard the secret space program on Super Soldier Talk about how you're not allowed to say Jesus around reptilians. Do you know anything about that?
Well, if Secret Space Force, Super Soldier Talk, they work with reptilians. And these aren't bad reptilians.
Okay.
But the name Jesus offends them in some way, and I guess it's in, it's hereditary or it's in their genes. I don't know.
Okay.
So yeah, I can understand. And when you have a 12-foot reptilian that you're working with, you really don't want to piss them off.
No.
So yeah, they're helping humans because not all reptilian and draconian are bad. They're just the minority. Mm-hmm. So they're helping Space Force, and they're helping light beings, and they're helping Solar Warden. They're on Mars right now with Solar Warden humans, fighting reptilians, fighting the Mantis, and there's Greys there. So there's a war going on Mars, which is pretty much almost liberated, and they're all trafficking. These reptilian or trafficking humans throughout the solar system and galaxies, and there are humans on, I believe, at least, I want to say, anywhere between 8 and 13 other planets in the universe. There are humans that were created.
Wow.
Created by God in different evolutionary stages. So,
wow.
And the reptilian, they go to planets that have humans on them or other beings that are benevolent, and they take them and they use them as slaves, or they traffic them. And they infested. Majority of them got kicked off planet Earth by the Palladians. Palladians dropped several nukes, approximately 5 miles up, over which is now called the Dead Sea, and that's why it's called the Dead Sea.
Okay.
So, and I believe they dropped one, had a 5-mile airburst over Pakistan. I believe they found a city, archaeologists found a city where all the bones were vitrified.
Wow.
The only thing that can do that is a nuclear bomb.
Okay.
So, a lot of them were kicked off the planet or killed by the Pleiadians. A lot went underground, a lot went to the moon, and a lot went to Mars.
And the moon is a man-made, not man-made, but made satellite.
Well, the reptilians dragged the moon in about 50,000 years ago as an observation plane.
Okay.
And a stopover, or however you want to call it, from wherever they're coming from. That moon was not there. There are Aborigines who have in their what do you call it?
Their history,
their
their drawings
stories
and stuff.
Yeah, because they really didn't have writing, they didn't have books, so everything was, spoken.
Mm-hmm. Stories.
Yeah, and they were created by the series B. Actually, they're water beings. So I always thought that was odd, because the Aborigines pretty much live in desert conditions.
That is odd.
But they were created by the water beings. They were told that the moon was dragged in about 50,000 years ago by the reptilians to observe Earth. The moon is one of the biggest moons in the solar system, and it's really too big for Earth. And if you look at the moon and you look at the craters, they're all at the same depth, which just shows you right there they're all fake. Now, there's craters on the moon that don't have a bottom, but they're not craters. They're, entrance and exit points for when the reptilian were there. The reptilians are no longer on the moon. My Venusian commander,
Rain?
Rain. She's now the commander of the dark side of the moon.
Oh, okay.
What called the dark side of the moon. And it's where light beings, different density level beings, Space Force, Solar Wars will meet and discuss what their next plans are.
Can you speak really quickly about this whole NASA business? Because there's so much stuff out saying NASA never went to the moon, but I know from whistleblower testimony that they did, and I also know my father was intricately involved in the Apollo missions, so it kind of bothers me. I know that that they did go to the moon.
Yeah, and I know that's in Judy's reports a lot, and it's some kind of a scam they're running. I don't understand. With the Apollo missions, they would do their drills and their practice, and on a moon setting with cameras rolling, just so that they could do their training, have it recorded, make it look like the moon, so then they could review it and discuss anything that they may have done wrong, could have did better.
Mm-hmm.
That is what they're trying to sell as the fake Apollo missions.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of fakery, but I do know from that testimony from like William Tompkins that I know really credible. I think another one was Pete Peterson that and I talk about how when they went to the moon the first time, the reptilians were there and they were on the rim and they told them not to come back. Neil Armstrong, my father told me Neil Armstrong was very quiet and very like a hermit after that whole mission, it's almost like he was depressed, or he didn't like lying about it, or
he was scared for his life. If he spoke, he would have been killed. So,
yeah, so the astronauts couldn't talk about it.
Right, and if you look at the astronauts, Armstrong, and Aldrin, and Michael, I can't remember his last name.
Collins.
Yeah, their
Buzz
first.
Aldrin, Collins. Yeah, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, their first press conference. If when you look at those guys, they all look like they're a little bit out of their mind, because NASA knew the reptilians were there, but they didn't notify the astronauts. So when Neil stepped out and turned around, I'm almost positive he wanted to run back up that ladder. Because when you got these massive craft just hovering, and you have reptilians hovering under the hovering craft, and they're staring at you and giving you instructions, and then you have NASA in the earpiece saying, just ignore them, do what you have to do, and then, get out of there. They're trying to say, I believe Apollo 17 was the last mission. That was with Gene Cernan, and Gene Cernan, which I reported this a long time ago, and, who am I? I'm according to a lot of government officials, they don't like me and they don't like what I say, but there's oxygen on the moon. There are ziggurats on the moon, which are partial pyramids, and there's pyramids on the moon. There's spires, there's towers, there's mining equipment, there's writing. Apollo 20 was a joint mission with Russia, with Commander Rutledge of the United States. They went there specifically to investigate the 5-mile-long petrified spaceship, which they landed. They went into, and that's where they found the two Martians. One of them was named Mona Lisa, but all they could recover from that body was her head. And there's video of that. I mean, that's out there. And the other Martian, they were both petrified. They've probably been there for, thousands of years. They cracked. But it was a 5-mile-long cigar-shaped craft. And they recorded the Martian language, which is, it's out there. It's on the internet somewhere, so people can verify it.
What about the Challenger when it blew up, and now you're starting to see looks like the same people that were on the Challenger out in society? I personally went to school with the daughter of Mike Smith. His daughter Allison, I didn't know her, but she went to my school. But I remember when that happened. I mean, she lost her father. It was really sad. I mean, the whole town was shooken up. And is there anything to that, or do you know anything about that? Is that just all hoaxes on the internet?
No, that was a total accident.
Okay.
Now, I do not recall the astronaut's name. I think it was maybe Apollo. Maybe I don't know if it was Apollo 7, 8, 9. I'm not sure which one. Those astronauts knew. They found out what was on the moon, and one of them started talking.
Was that Ed White and?
Maybe.
Yeah, because Ed White was the name of my elementary school. He died inside they burned it up inside the rocket, and my father was in mission control when that happened. He said they could hear the screams. It was absolutely horrific.
Yeah, one of the last words heard was, "I'm breathing in fire."
Oh, it was just so sad.
Yeah, they killed him.
I'm not surprised. My father doesn't know that. he still thinks that it was some sort of oxygen leak or something. They don't tell, the people that work at NASA don't know a lot of the stuff that people think they know. You know, they're kept in the dark too sometimes, or they can't talk or whatever. Who knows?
Yeah, it's all of it. Some don't know. Some aren't allowed to talk. Some are threatened with their life. You have a woman that worked there before digital cameras came out, and UFOs. I don't know what species or entities they were, but they're hovering over the moon, and it was her job to airbrush them out of the pictures. It was her job to take the pictures from Mars, which show blue skies and different color dirt and surface. There's oxygen on Mars. It was her job to airbrush everything red.
Yeah.
Call it the Red Planet. So, I mean, she came out.
I remember her interview. I did hear that. It was a long time ago, but yeah.
Yeah, and solar wardens there, they're not running around in spacesuits with helmets on trying to fight. They have their armor, they have what they need and their weapons, but they're breathing oxygen.
Okay.
There's water there, there's plant life, there's oxygen. It's just, I want to say, okay, so this looks bad for the Pleiadians, but when they were chasing the reptilian and the draconian, and they dropped a couple of nukes 5 mile up airbursts to kill them, which there's documentation, I believe, in Egypt of the Dead Sea, and like pictographs of what looks like the nuclear bombs that were dropped in Hiroshima. I believe one of them was called Fat Boy. There's pictures of those carved out in Egypt.
Okay.
And that's why they left Egypt. And a lot of the rulers in Egypt were aliens.
Oh yeah, I've heard that.
So yeah, and they would have 13,000 year reigns. But anyway, so the Pleiadians got them off the moon, and then they went to Mars, moon Phobos, and Solar Warden, well, not Solar Warden, the Pleiadians got them off of there, and they ended up on Mars. So the Pleiadians said, "We're tired of chasing you," and they dropped 2 massive nukes. And if you look at Mars, some of the pictures show what looks like a massive hole with like spider legs shooting off of it, like to the left and down.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was from these nukes that the Pleiadians dropped to eradicate this evil. Pleiadians did give the Martians fair warning. Half of the Martians went underground to live. They had the technology to do that, which they're still underground. And the other half, Pleiadians brought to planet Earth. So you have Martians living in the Amazon. You have Martians living under Santa Fe Baldy Mountain in New Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
I know other places, but I can't reveal it because they're more public.
Yeah, and you don't want people chasing them down.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so if you're walking down the street and a Martian walks past you and you look at him, you'll take a couple more steps and you'll turn around and you'll say, well, there's something a little odd about that person. Like, something just didn't look right.
Yeah.
Well, that would be a Martian. Short, tan, black hair. Mm-hmm. Even the women had mustaches. I mean, it was... So, anyway, so the Pleiadians dropped some nukes there. Some Martians went underground. Some Martians were transported off. The reptilians went underground and hid, for 1,000 years or so, and then came back up and took over the planet. And then that's where they're at now, and Solar Warden is, and Secret Space Force, and light beings are taking them out.
Okay.
Light beings are fighting evil
Everywhere.
everywhere.
I know.
They're fighting these reptilians and these draconians. They're like a cockroach infestation is what these things are, and you have to hit them with the poison and eradicate them once and for all.
Yeah.
And they're everywhere throughout the universe. So there's and the light beings when humans hear the ram horns or hear the loud not rumblings,
Trumpets,
but
like a trumpet sound, you mean?
yeah, like a loud trumpet or ram horn. That is a battle between the light beings and these draconian and reptilians in a parallel realm, which that noise bleeds over into this realm.
Wow.
So that's what people around the world hear, and that is a battle going on right there.
Okay. Well, we need to wrap things up. I think we've been going for a while. Is there any last words about what's happening now? Do you have anything that you want to say? Any ideas of when things are going to wrap up? If Trump's coming back, any little last minute pieces of intel you might want to share?
The only thing I can say is humans want to know when all this is going to be done, and they all want proof. Okay, so walk out your front door and look left and right. There's evil all down your street. It's everywhere. It's a mass infestation. Everyone has their priorities. No one is deviating from the script. A lot of the reptilian and draconian will be taken out by the light beings. Not even all the white hats or any of the alliance know of what the light beings are doing. Galactic Federation does, and the Council of Light, all the planets of light do. Like I said, everyone, it's almost like everyone's got an NDA or they just aren't told.
Mm-hmm.
So everyone is conducting their operations. And like I said, they have the priorities. And the evil is everywhere. You can walk down the street and there's evil. So it's going to take time to eradicate. Now, once all the heads of the snakes are cut off, which most of them are, you have to start, wrangling in the minions. And that's what's taking place now with the white hats and special forces and you get the Russians are taking out these reptilians and draconians around the planet. If you hear that Russia is visiting Africa for whatever, they're over there fighting these reptilians. Now, we were in South Africa, and we went through all those dumbs and tunnels and cleaned them. Now, I don't know if anything's back there, but Russia was over there not too long ago. So, long story short is, number one, no one's getting proof of the operations that are taking place, so please stop asking.
Mm-hmm.
And, you make me feel bad when you ask me for proof and I can't supply it, and then I tend to feel bad, but
right.
I can't. So, and military special forces aren't coming out of the dumbs with videos of half-eaten children and children in cages. No one's seeing that. Even the guys that are seeing it are breaking down mentally and having to get rehabilitation. So
yeah, I would imagine. So, but when everything does go down, you said it was going to go down real fast and quick.
Yeah, so it'll be a black swan, either Marburg or UFO invasion. It's one of the two that will trigger military to go.
Okay,
and that's That's all militaries around the planet. And regardless of what happens with that, the worst are going to be taking out these demons underground. Now, some of these offshoot tunnels are 1,000 miles long. If it wasn't for the offshoot tunnels, this operation on Geneva would be done. Right now, I'm at Area 52, Dugaway Army Proving Grounds, because we're in a holding pattern right now. My families are doing reconnaissance in these offshoot tunnels. The short offshoot tunnels we find children in. These 1,000-mile long ones we have to go through and determine any recent activity or any signs, so we know how to formulate a game plan. So right now we're just in a holding pattern. Why some of my family members are going through the offshoot tunnels on all the levels. So I'll be going back to Geneva Friday or Saturday, and then I'll have an update for the Patriots either Saturday or Monday. So I guess we can just leave it there.
Well, thank you very much. This was fascinating, and we so appreciate your time. You always give your time to others, and it's just so nice and giving of you. And I know that you have been on Earth for a long time.
Okay, don't get carried away now. I'm not that old.
Since 1957? And then you went, and then you came back?
Yeah, 57 to 60, left in 60. Only to go back and give a briefing of what took place and what didn't take place, and then came back, and then with 200 of my Venetian family, and we just spread out throughout the planet and infiltrated different governments to try to steer humans in the right direction, and to service God and not evil, and not drop any more nukes. And like you have in your reports, all the nukes on the planet have been disarmed. So we can't disarm ones in the subs because we would end up killing the crew members. So if it's ones ever fired off, it gets disarmed immediately. I believe in 2018 or 19, when Trump was on Air Force One, someone tried a false flag. They were going to blame it on China, but it was a U.S. submarine fired a nuclear missile at Hawaii. Hawaii's alarms were all going off, and then Hawaii tried to make it like it was a mistake, and the guy that worked the alarms had tripped it by accident. Some lame excuse. What a U.S. Submarine fired off a nuclear missile, and it never hit. And they couldn't figure out why. Well, I can tell you why, because the light beings dissolved it while it was on its course.
Very good. So they have saved us in so many ways, haven't they?
So the children need their big brothers and sisters to take care of them when the bullies come into town, and that's what
we're the children, I'm guessing, in that scenario.
Yeah, the humans are the children of the universe, and the only reason that we are here is because the children found the matches. And we're detonating nuclear bombs, so we had to come in and
rein us in.
And just be a deterrent and work with the governments that have the nukes. And like I said, they're all disarmed, so no one has to worry about a nuclear bomb going off. Now, they might try to do a fake explosion somewhere and change the color of the sky and say it's radiation, this and that. It's just continue eating your dinner and don't even give it a second thought.
Okay.
They'll blow something up in the desert and claim it's a nuke bomb. I just disregard it. Disregard any pandemic. Don't go out getting boosters. Don't fall for Marburg. Don't even. It's going to trip martial law, so you're not going to be outside anyway. Just totally disregard anything. that tries to enslave you or trap you in your house or make you do things that they want you to do. Just raise up and fight back. It's the only thing I can say. So don't be afraid of any news going off. That's not going to happen. And don't fall for any more pandemic tricks.
Okay. Well,
all I can finish up with is thank you, Mary, for reaching out to me. I really appreciate everything that you do.
Oh, you're welcome.
And
my pleasure.
I'm sorry, I misspoke. We appreciate everything that you are doing.
Well, it's like you know, if you're a godly person, or I'm a Christian, and this is what you do. You jump in and help when you find out that there's all of this evil going on. How could you not? So, and I know so many people, they feel they're helping in their own way, and that's I think what a lot of patriots are doing. So it's something we just do, and it's got to be done.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's correct. But the difference between you and them is that you're a star season light worker, and that's why you're here, and that's why you do what you do, and that's why you can work 6 or 7 hours a day to do this every single day, and still have the stamina and dedication and loyalty for humanity, and that's why I communicate with you. We relate on a higher level. You're a 4th density being. I was a 7th density being on Venus, and I had to drop down to a 5 able to maintain life here.
Yeah.
So that's why we relate, and that's why I communicate messages for your channel. So I just wanted the Patriots to know that. It's also my job to protect you.
Oh.
And I do that at all costs, and I do it with a smile on my face.
Well, thank you so much. And again, thank you for giving so much of your time for us and always answering comments. I mean, you're amazing, the time that you give. So thank you is really not enough, but we do appreciate everything you're doing. And we'll do another interview, and stay safe. And hopefully we'll talk soon.
All right, well, thank you, Mary. And just one last word for the praises. When you have a thought of a prayer or a blessing, myself and my family already know before it's spoken. So, yeah, please continue. And we love all of you and your beautiful souls. And we're going to take care of you.
That's nice. So keep those prayers coming. All right. Well, thank you. And again, we'll talk another time soon.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Mary, and you stay safe.
Okay. Over and out.
Peace and much love to you.
Thank you. Peace and much love to you too.